are moments in life when a person discovers that the world they see is only a small part of a much greater reality. This is the story of a man who carried a gift he never asked for, a gift that allowed him to touch the unseen, to feel the whispers of heaven, and to sense the footsteps of darkness long before they arrived. Many people later knew him as Edgar Cayce, a healer with visions that changed lives. But before hope ever flowed through his words, he faced a battle that nearly broke his spirit. This story follows the path he walked, the fears he hid, the courage he found, and the night when demons came for him with shadows older than time. Yet even in that moment of danger, something extraordinary happened. Heaven stepped forward. It placed a weapon inside his soul, one that would guide him, protect him, and turn his fear into a force of strength. His journey became a testimony that even the darkest night can be defeated by a single flame of truth. He had seen visions since childhood, and every vision left a quiet mark on his heart. He never asked for this gift, and he never truly understood why he could move between the world of waking and the world of hidden truth. Edgar Cayce grew up believing that these strange moments were simply echoes of imagination, until the first night when he felt something dark following him. It was not the kind of fear that came from shadows or storms. It was a fear that felt alive, a fear that seemed to know his name. The story that would later inspire thousands began long before anyone knew who he was. It began on nights when he lay awake, listening to a presence he could not explain. He often tried to tell himself that it was all in his mind, but the mind cannot invent a whisper that touches the spine or a chill that passes through a closed room. He sensed something watching him, waiting, studying the cracks in his courage. He kept quiet, even when he wanted to scream. He grew older, learned to move through life as if everything was normal, but the unseen world continued to follow him. And even though Edgar Cayce later became famous for his dreams, readings, and healing trance states, the experiences that shaped his soul were not about fame. They were about survival, faith, and one night when he learned that darkness was real, and that heaven had not abandoned him. He spent his days helping others. People came to him with sickness, with fear, with burdens they hid from the world. When he went into a trance, he felt as if a river of truth flowed through him. He spoke words he did not think of, saw places he had never visited, described lives he had never lived. But he always woke feeling exhausted, as if something unseen drained a part of him. At first he ignored the fatigue, believing it was only the cost of compassion. But with time he realized the exhaustion had a deeper cause. There were days when he felt watched, nights when he felt pulled. And one evening, after finishing a reading that left him unusually weak, he felt the air shift. Not suddenly, but slowly, like a heavy curtain being drawn behind him. He turned his head, but nothing was there. Still, his instincts told him that something had entered the room, something not human, something that knew how to move without footsteps. He tried to shake off the feeling, reminding himself that fear often plays tricks, but his spirit whispered a different truth. Edgar Cayce had spent years touching the spiritual world, and the spiritual world had begun touching back. That night, when he closed his eyes, he entered a vision without calling for one. He stood in a vast desert that did not belong to Earth. The sky was red, as if lit by a sun that refused to set. The wind carried voices that hissed, laughed, and growled with hunger. He knew at once that this place was not a dream, it was a warning. He saw shapes moving toward him. At first they looked like shadows. Then the shadows changed into forms, twisted, bending at impossible angles, walking like creatures made of smoke and malice. They crawled across the ground like living nightmares, their eyes burning without light. For the first time in his life he felt true helplessness, not because he feared losing his life, but because he feared losing his soul. The demons came closer. Their steps made no sound, but the air around him trembled with hatred. He wanted to run but could not. He wanted to pray, but his voice was trapped inside his chest. He felt stripped of strength. as if every moment of doubt he had ever experienced gave those creatures more power. One of them reached out, its arm stretched like a long black root searching for a place to burrow. Edgar Cayce stepped back, but the ground beneath him shifted like sand. Then something happened. A small light, gentle, warm, pure, appeared behind him. He turned slightly, and the light grew, brighter and brighter, until it felt like the breath of heaven itself entering that dark desert. The demons froze, their bodies twisted as if the light burned them. They shrank away, covering their faces with claws that looked older than time. The light touched his back, and the fear inside him cracked like glass. The desert shook, the sky brightened, and from inside the light came a voice, not loud, not fierce, but strong enough to silence every shadow. "You are not alone." The voice carried comfort and authority at the same time, as if every word held both the kindness of a parent and the command of a king. He felt his knees give way, not from weakness, but from the overwhelming peace surrounding him. The light formed into a shape, not an angel with wings, but a figure made of radiance, tall and steady, like a guardian carved from dawn. The being did not raise a weapon. It simply touched the air with one hand, and a barrier of golden fire appeared between Edgar Cayce and the approaching demons. The creatures writhed, they clawed at the barrier, but their hands dissolved into smoke each time they touched it. Their voices turned into shrieks that sounded like the breaking of metal. Edgar Cayce watched, trembling, as the beings of darkness were pushed back by the force of a world they could not enter. The guardian turned toward him and extended its hand. When he touched it, a surge of energy rushed through him, not painful, but powerful, like a river of courage that washed away every fear he had carried since childhood. "You must understand," the being said, "that the darkness comes for those who bring light. The more you give, the more they will try to weaken you. But heaven does not send a soul into battle without a weapon." The guardian lifted its other hand, and a new light appeared, this one shaped like a small flame. But it did not burn. It pulsed like a living heartbeat. "This is the strength of truth," the guardian said. "Hold it inside you, let it guide your words, let it steady your heart. With this you will not only withstand the darkness, you will transform it." He felt the flame settle inside his chest, warm and steady. It felt like courage, like clarity, like a whisper that said, "You can rise again." The moment it entered him, the desert around him began to fade. The demons vanished into smoke, the sky returned to blue, the ground beneath him turned solid. Then he woke up on his own bed, breathless, shaking, but filled with a peace he had not known before. The room around him was silent, yet he felt the echo of the guardian's presence, as if the last trace of heaven still rested on the walls. For days, he said nothing about the vision, not because he feared being judged, but because he needed time to understand what had happened. He felt different, stronger. He felt as if a new force lived inside him, guiding his thoughts, helping him sense danger before it approached. He still sensed darkness at times, but now the darkness could not touch him. When he prayed, he felt the flame inside him expand. When he helped others, he felt its warmth guide his words. And when he grew weak, he heard the guardian's voice again, quiet but certain. "You are not alone." His readings became deeper. His courage became stronger, and people who came for healing noticed something different. They did not know the details, but they felt the strength in his spirit, the calm in his voice, the glow behind his eyes. He continued helping hundreds, then thousands, but he never forgot that night in the desert. He never forgot the demons that tried to claim his fear, and he never forgot the weapon heaven gave him. Not a sword, not a shield, but a flame inside the soul that no darkness could extinguish. He tried to explain the vision once, telling those close to him that the spiritual world was not just light and peace. There were battles unseen, wars fought in places the human eye could not reach. But he also told them that no person of light walks alone, even if the world tries to convince them otherwise. He reminded them that every soul has a purpose, and every purpose attracts both opposition and support. Darkness attacks the ones who carry hope, because hope is the only thing strong enough to break chains that have existed for centuries. But heaven gives strength to those who refuse to surrender. Sometimes that strength comes as courage, sometimes as faith, sometimes as clarity. And sometimes, when the danger is great, it comes as a flame placed directly inside the spirit. As time passed, he continued to feel the presence of both realms. There were nights when he sensed the demons testing the boundaries around him, trying to find a weakness. But the flame inside him always answered with a quiet power. The darkness would retreat each time, as if reminded that he was no longer an easy target. And yet, something new began to happen. He felt the shift before he saw anything. It began as a heaviness in the air, the kind that warns a person that something unseen is approaching. Days had passed peacefully, yet a quiet pressure now rested on his chest, as if the world was holding its breath. He knew darkness was returning, but this time it was different. It did not come with sudden fear. It came with patience, calculation, and a strange silence that made the night feel colder. He sat at his bedside, praying softly, when the flame inside his chest pulsed. It had never done that before. It felt like a heartbeat that was not his own, a gentle knock from the spiritual world. He closed his eyes and breathed slowly, letting the warmth spread through his body. The moment he exhaled, a shadow moved across the far corner of the room. It stretched slowly, as if waking from a long sleep. He did not panic. He simply watched, waiting for the darkness to reveal its shape. The shadow grew taller, then split into several smaller forms that slid along the walls without touching the floor. They looked like smoke, but each had eyes, dim red circles that flickered with hunger. They were not the same demons he had seen in the desert. These were quieter, more intelligent, as though they had studied him and learned his strengths. One of them stepped forward, its voice a whisper of broken wind. "Your light fades," it hissed. "You have been drained by your own kindness." He knew the darkness wanted him to believe that. He knew its weapon was not claws, but lies. Edgar Cayce had heard many voices in visions throughout his life, but none as cold as this. Still, he felt no fear. The flame inside him glowed, and he straightened his back. "You come because you know your time is short," he said calmly. The shadows snarled. Their forms quivered, as if his words struck them harder than any weapon. They moved closer, surrounding his bed in a ring of smoke. The room dimmed, not from the absence of light, but because the darkness itself swallowed it. He could sense their intent. They wanted to weaken his spirit, drain his energy, drown him in exhaustion until the flame dimmed. They wanted the silence of his gift. They wanted to keep the people he helped from healing. They wanted the world to lose the light he carried. The shadows closed in. But before they reached him, something remarkable happened. The flame inside his chest began to glow so brightly that he felt heat radiate through his skin. He placed a hand over his heart, and it felt as if the flame was pushing outward. His breath grew steady. His fear dissolved into clarity. The Guardian's voice returned, not from outside, but from within the flame itself. "You were never meant to stand alone. The kingdom watches over those who carry its light." The shadows froze. They trembled, bending backward as though an invisible force pressed against them. The flame reacted to their presence, rising higher inside him until it felt like a sun warming every corner of his soul. Then the room shifted. He was no longer sitting on his bed. He was standing in a vast, open field of white light. There was no sky, no ground, only a horizon made of brightness. The Guardian appeared again, walking toward him with a calm that stilled every memory of fear. "The darkness has grown desperate," the Guardian said. "It comes now because it knows you have reached the moment of your true purpose." He listened carefully. A soft wind moved around them, though the wind itself seemed made of singing. "You have helped many," the Guardian continued, "but the greatest battle is not with demons outside, it is with doubt inside. Tonight you will learn the full power of the weapon heaven placed within you." Edgar Cayce felt the flame expand, rising into his throat, his mind, his very breath. The Guardian lifted a hand, and a beam of pure gold light appeared above him, descending gently until it entered the flame inside his chest. The power was overwhelming, yet soft, like being embraced by something eternal. "You will not see the darkness again as an enemy," the guardian said. "You will see it as something you have already overcome." The field of light faded and he opened his eyes. He was back in his room, but now the shadows recoiled as if struck by invisible chains. Their shapes twisted violently, their eyes dimming, their forms shrinking. The flame inside him blazed outward in a burst of silent light, and the shadows disintegrated, one by one, like ashes rising into the air. Within seconds, nothing remained. The room was still again. He sat on the edge of his bed, breathing slowly, letting the final bits of fear leave his body. He felt calm, calmer than he had ever been. The flame settled into a gentle glow, steady, peaceful, protective. He understood now that this was not just a gift. It was a calling. From that night forward, something changed inside him. His readings grew clearer. His voice became steadier. People who came to him felt a warmth near him, as if sitting beside a fireplace on a winter morning. His presence alone seemed to lift fear from others. He no longer carried only knowledge, he carried a spiritual strength that reached beyond his own life. He continued helping countless people, giving hope, offering healing, bringing clarity to those who felt lost. The world saw him as a man with a rare gift, but only he knew the truth of what he had faced. He had seen the darkness. He had survived the desert. He had heard the voice of heaven, and he had held a weapon forged from light itself. He never spoke of the battle again, not because he feared disbelief, but because he knew the weapon was not meant to be explained, it was meant to be lived. And as he moved forward into the years ahead, he carried that flame with him, glowing quietly, guiding him through every reading, every prayer, every moment of exhaustion, every whisper of doubt. It remained a reminder that light is stronger than darkness, that heaven does not abandon those who stand for others, and that even in the deepest visions, hope finds its way through. The story of Edgar Cayce continued, shaped by faith, guided by purpose, strengthened by the flame heaven placed within him. And though the world around him changed, though challenges rose like storms, he knew that the weapon he had been given would never leave him. Because the flame was not only protection, it was destiny.